Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
I'm John.
And I'm Colin.
So we're going to talk about the newest episode of WandaVision again, episode 4. Probably doesn't have a title yet. We're going to start with our general impressions of the episode, and then we'll move on to a breakdown of the episode and get into a little bit of theory crafting, although this episode is far more straightforward than the previous episodes. So, Colin, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I think that this episode is where the plot really thickens, and I like the fact that they formatted the episode where it's almost like a flashback and then but seeing in a different perspective. So really appreciated that type of perspective that was different from the previous 3 episodes.
Yeah, we finally got some revelations, got some answers to some things that happened in the first 3 episodes, filling in many blanks. Like Colin said, a different perspective. So what happened elsewhere from the first 3 episodes. This episode also had some things happening that confirmed many of our theories, and it was also great to see a lot of the supporting characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe too. Yeah,
definitely got answers in this episode. Got things confirmed from our speculation. So we're pretty good speculators. I don't know if our speculation has been 100%, but I think everything that we saw in this episode we speculated to be correct. There are definitely answers in this episode, but also more questions that are raised as well. So we'll get into that when we start breaking down the episode. So, spoilers ahead. We're going to start breaking down episodes scene by scene, unlike the previous episodes, because this is sort of the other side of the looking glass. There isn't any sitcom tropes to go through, so we might dip into theories here and there, but we'll try to keep that to the end. All right, so we start with this scene.
Lieutenant Trouble. Maria died 3 years ago. No, which was 2 years after you... After I what? After you disappeared.
So this sets the stage for this episode as we, at the end of the last episode, as we discussed last week, the aspect ratio change. So we moved into the real world, but we also got this flashback. So it sets up, I guess, the hero of this episode, even though we don't see her for a lot of the episode. We see her at the beginning of the episode and at the end of the episode. What did you guys think of this opening?
It placed us in the timeline of when it all started. And in this particular case with Monica, it was the return from the blip. Right, and so I thought that was cool the way they tied that in, and as soon as I saw it, I said, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah, and I think that that's definitely a good perspective as well. I mean, I talked about earlier regarding perspectives, and just the whole disorientation of it kind of hit in real life. Whereas, if you remember from Endgame, it really was just the scene in which Hawkeye was talking with his wife, and that was pretty much the confirmation that everything was going back before the blip happened. And so you also see that in Spider-Man as well, but seeing it from a perspective where everybody is very anxious and panicking definitely hits home very hard.
Yeah. So, did we see rematerialization in Spider-Man Far From Home? I think they tried to play it for laughs in Spider-Man.
Right, they did.
Yeah,
they did. They just showed that one clip where it's a basketball team or something.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Whereas with this episode, they showed, how frantic it would be if you started showing up in places randomly, and how panicked everyone would be. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it was definitely a good opening, and also it places. It orients us with the rest of the MCU, unlike the other previous episodes that dropped us in the middle of sitcom land. So, yeah.
Right.
Yep. Now, I was sad to the revelation there that Maria passed away, and but hopefully we'll see her in some flashbacks.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from there, we get a trip to Sword headquarters.
Ma'am, over here, please.
I work here, and...
If you did, your badge would work, wouldn't it?
I have a meeting
Hey,
with...
you know who this is? Captain Monica Rambeau. Come on, let's catch you up. It's been 3 weeks and you're the first to report. The program hasn't been the same since you've been up there, Rambo. Shifted away from manned missions and refocused on robotics, nanotech, AI, sentient weapons, like it says on the door.
It also says observation and response on that door, not creation.
So that whole scene, that series of scenes that was cut together is about 3 minutes long. There's a lot at Sword headquarters. You guys see anything that we found interesting? I want to speak about the dynamic between the two of them, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think of Sword in these scenes.
Sword, the headquarters, it kind of reminded me of what was it, Star Labs from the DC universe a little bit, and then of course it also reminded me of the new Avengers headquarters that we saw in the more recent Avengers movies as well. But so going back and forth, him revealing who started Sword, and that immediately piqued my interest, thinking, wow, we now have to see a backstory on that too as well. So and whoever, and he also revealed who grounded her from doing any other, I guess, space missions. It sounded like, and but of course, little did she know that this little tiny welcome back mission that she's given, it would lead to something bigger, right?
Right.
Yeah, for me, I think that there are two things that stood out. One is kind of a theory, which I can later on talk about, and the other one was that it did fill in kind of the backstory of Maria Rambeau, and kind of we saw that at the beginning with, at the very beginning with Captain Marvel, with Samuel L. Jackson's character Nick Fury and Monica, on the spaceship and going to the spaceship from Marvel. So it was kind of like the very beginning part of it of what made Sword possible was that interaction between the two back in the 90s, and how that ties. I'll be very interested to see how Nick Fury ties into Sword now that we kind of know from this episode that Monica is the architect of Sword.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see this. It was because we know Peggy Carter and Howard Stark were sort of the catalyst for S.H.I.E.L.D. So it seems that Monica, Maria's experience in space was the catalyst for creating Sword, and we know. I mean, this is now canon now. So I definitely want to see. I definitely want to see flashbacks with Maria, and also there was the time of the snap, or the blip as they're calling it in the universe, and the time after they were all brought back. Captain Marvel was on Earth. I assume she would have seen Monica. So I want to see some scenes with Captain Marvel and Maria talking about losing Monica and being concerned about losing Monica. I want to see them, because Monica's going to show up in the new Captain Marvel movie, right? So there definitely has to be some scenes between them talking about her mom. And maybe some flashbacks. So I'm hoping, given that they've woven her into the history of Sword, that we'll definitely see some of that stuff going forward. Right, so then we get Monica's mission.
The FBI is in a tizzy over a missing persons case up in Jersey. They've requested use of one of our imaging drones. I need a chaperone.
Drones usually chaperone me.
You're grounded.
Whose protocol is this?
Your mother's. You'd be doing me a big favor with this FBI thing, but if you need more time...
No, I'm good to go.
Excellent.
So I didn't mention this with the previous clip, but the other thing that I noticed from the previous clip and also this clip is their dynamic. I think they're trying to set. I think the director and also the writer wants you to not like him. not just the dynamic here, but I'll point it out later on with his dynamic with Agent Wu and also with Dr. Lewis. He seems dismissive. I think they're setting it up for she's going to eventually take over, because it was her mother's organization in the first place. They don't want you to. They want you to. They want to show him as competent, but not necessarily the person who should be leading this organization. I think the other part that points to that is in the previous scene. She specifically points out that we're supposed to be observation and response, not creation, right? So she's very upset, really upset that they're creating sentient weapons.
Yeah, very interesting to see the dynamic and see how it plays out in further episodes, and whether or not she plays a more prominent role, post WandaVision, and as they try to expand the MCU into space. So it will be very interesting to kind of see where that leads us in the future.
Yeah.
So did Sword not learn anything from Shield at all? In that, Shield wanted to also create weapons too, right? From the Tesseract, and
right.
Because now there are threats from there are new threats, super being threats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Sword is now creating weapons because hey, there's aliens now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So does that mean there's a space Hydra hiding in the background?
Maybe.
Well, it could be the scrolls. I mean,
that's definitely.
or the Kree.
We'll get to that.
Invasion?
Yeah, we'll get to that later on in the episode. But they definitely think of the scrolls as a threat that's always in the background there, because it shows up on a whiteboard later on in this episode. So it could be the scrolls. So then we move on to her actual mission, and she meets Agent Wu.
James E. Wu, FBI.
What's the story here, Agent Wu?
I've got a witness set up down the road in Westview, and this morning it looked like he flew the coop. Pardon me, Sheriff. Would you mind repeating your claim about Westview to my colleague here?
No such place.
So you can't reach anyone inside, and everyone on the outside has some sort of selective amnesia. Why haven't you gone inside to investigate?
Because it doesn't want me to.
Why is it that you have an awareness of Westview? Or me, for that matter. Wait, where'd it go?
It was right there. What is it?
Some sort of energy field.
Careful, Rambo. Rambo! Captain Rambo!
A lot of setup there. We get the return of Agent Wu, and he learned the magic trick, which
Yes,
he did. From Ant-Man, yep.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
So they had a lot of interesting. I think they definitely brought in Randall Park and Kat Denning to be the comic relief in this episode, and they did a good job. I think Randall Park was able to be the comic relief in this episode, while also I can also see that he's a competent agent. He's not like a goofball agent. He's competent at his job, so he was able to thread that needle. So I like Randall Park's role in this episode. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it quickly establishes yet again, this time from the perspective of the outside world, that not all is what it seems, and especially where they interact with the policeman. And I was laughing hysterically when Monica keeps referencing the Westview sign, and the cops are like, "Nope, never heard of it." And meanwhile, they're just standing right in front of it the whole time. So again, great setup there. And then we got to see the drone that she sent in, and that drone ended up being that helicopter that Wanda picked up.
Or at least it might have been one of the helicopters, because they kept sending in drones. As we'll see, they keep sending in drones, and they never get anywhere.
Yeah, and I found it very interesting and very revealing about Westview and Eastview, how the police officer said that he was from Eastview, and then there was no such thing as Westview. Very curious to see what that dynamic is about, whether there's some hidden message there as to why that was the case, and why, and also whether or not Eastview is actually a city in New Jersey. I'm very curious to kind of figure that out, to find out. I didn't really go into deep research as to wondering what that is, but maybe someone that's watching this episode might be from Eastview, so they might tell us if there is an Eastview, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Is there a Westview? Because I
didn't research that either. I researched most of the things about this episode, but I didn't actually do a Google map search of the area.
Well, and if anyone's watching from Westview, I'm sorry. Yeah,
we didn't acknowledge your town. All right, so moving on.
Probably hashtag it.
Huh?
We could probably hashtag it.
Yeah.
In our video.
So moving on, we get actually a scene with another familiar face.
Nuclear biology.
Artificial intelligence.
Astrophysics. It means whatever the threat is, Sword clearly has no idea what they're dealing with.
All right, grab your gear.
Miss Lewis,
Dr. Lewis,
we have your gear set up inside. What are you getting?
a colossal amount of CMBR, cosmic microwave background radiation. There are longer wavelengths superimposed over the noise here. I need a TV, an old one, not flat.
So we see Darcy from Thor: The Dark World is the last time we saw her, and it's been 10 years since we saw her last in canon. I think probably 7 years in the real world, but they had that 5-year jump. So she's an astrophysicist now.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah, and I had that discussion with offline with you, Nathan, about how relevant it is, because I remember from the Thor movies that she started as an English major and then kind of got involved with Jane Foster and Dr. Selvig, and and then you mentioned about how after 12 years it could be possible for someone to obtain their PhD and to switch majors actually. So. It was a very interesting conversation we had offline about that.
Yeah, after we actually chatted through chat, I actually looked it up. She was actually a political science major, and then she switched to, I guess she should switch to, you can imagine, even if you're a political science major and then you are just interning for astrophysicists, and a alien comes down, maybe you think, maybe there's something to this astrophysicist. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe this is more
she
interesting.
was inspired.
Yeah, exactly.
but Kat Dennings, she's as funny as ever. I always liked her character in the Thor movies, and I like her in the other things I've seen as well. And to me, she's a breath of fresh air in this as well. She's funny and really delivers her lines with great timing there. And always enjoyable.
Hey folks, I just wanted to pause to say, if you're enjoying the conversation, if you're finding it useful, engaging, entertaining, any of the above, please like the video below. It really helps the channel grow, and we would really appreciate it. All right, back to it. So we move on to Hayward.
These swords will take you straight into town.
Mission.
Director Hayward, between you, me, and the bedpost, I am not confident about this mission. We don't know enough about the nature of the threat to send in another agent when the first is yet to return.
What do we have up?
Radar, LiDAR, SODAR, infrared.
Cycle through. Where's this coming from?
Out there. You didn't answer the back door.
Happening in real time, is recorded, fabricated.
I don't know, and I don't know.
What do you know?
The universe created a sitcom starring 2 Avengers?
It's a working theory.
Are we recording this?
Never stopped.
I need immediate analysis.
He's a charmer.
Great work.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I think before we recorded this, you guys were commenting that it'd be nice to see a show between them, the 2 of these characters, because they do have some on-screen chemistry, and it's not even like sexual chemistry. They just riff off of each other very well.
Yeah,
and they seem to just be
pleasant. They both have great comedy timing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is what I was talking about earlier about the show basically saying that they don't like Hayward because we are supposed to like Wu and we are supposed to like now Dr. Lewis. So the show is basically saying that we are not supposed to like Hayward from scenes like this, I think. So this is where Dr. Lewis shows her intelligence as well. I mean, her indispensable because they have all this. Earlier in the scene, they said they had radar, LiDAR, all these things, and the person who actually figures this out, figures it out, is Dr. Lewis here, Darcy.
Yeah, she immediately discovers that there's some sort of radiation with some kind of a broadcast wavelength,
right?
And that's how she was able to pick up that signal on an old TV. And by the way, someone please get that woman some coffee, right? and not from a cup either, right? Again, I thought the writing with just the limited lines that she had were funny as well.
She probably had more lines in this episode, again, just like Wanda and Vision, than she had in all the movies before, but which is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found it very curious is that that they had in the previous clip that we showed how she had that old radar that was down, that was on the ground, and she was able they were just sitting there, which was kind of interesting to me as to why did Sword have that piece of equipment, but they didn't have old television sets. So that's kind of rather curious to me.
So I read that differently than you did. I thought that was more of her equipment. She had a bunch of.
Okay.
I thought that was just stuff. So remember earlier in that scene, he says after calling her Miss Lewis, and she corrected him and saying Dr. Lewis. She said he said that your stuff is set up in the tent, and I think that was just her stuff. And I think that the device that she picked up was an older, like general purpose device that registers wavelengths. so she was able to see the wavelength, but she needed something specifically to tune into television broadcasts, which is more specifically tuned to for what she needed. But I think the general purpose machine was why she was able to see something, but not as clear as she would like to. That's how I read it. I might be completely wrong, but that's how I read it when I saw the scene.
I just remember that thing being very heavy, and she's trying to pick that thing up. I got it. Telling it to that military man.
Yeah. I just wonder if people still use that. I'm pretty sure that they still do, but just very fascinated about that piece of technology. Just to see if people still use it these days.
Yeah, it seems so. Like a lot of this stuff is made up, but that piece of equipment seems like something that was real. Like the thing that she was using this to scan the cosmic background radiation, that looked like made up stuff for the show. I think it might have been an oscilloscope that she picked up, the giant thing. But we'd have to look into that. Is what she picked up. All right. So then, because of I guess Hayward instructs everyone to start combing through things. Now, Agent Wu has the task of organizing everyone.
First and foremost, our main objective is to get any intel on Captain Rambo. We successfully identified 2 individuals inside the Westview anomaly. Let's keep going.
Mr. and Mrs. Hart, Todd and Sharon Davis.
Avilash Tandon as Norm.
Harold Proctor as Jones.
Isabel Matsueda, cast as Beverly.
John Collins as Herb. Seem okay to you?
Well, she doesn't appear to be harmed in any way, but that is definitely not the boss lady I met yesterday.
So what, deep cover? Monica has to play along?
With whom? Or else what? What are we looking at here? Is it an alternate reality, time travel, some cockamamie social experiment?
Hey man, we're working with the same scarcity of intel.
There was actually a lot in those scenes. They identify a lot of the people. Agent Wu sets up a crisis room. We also see, actually in the previous scene, we saw that the borders of the anomaly, the Westview anomaly is what they're calling it, is another hexagonal shape. So this is just a screenshot of the map that they have, of the boundaries of it. So we see that in that montage. And we also see the board that he has here as well. All the things.
Yeah, this is us, right?
Yeah. It's basically us. It's basically us. Is also
and everybody else,
and everyone else on the internet, which I found pretty awesome. And maybe we should come back. Well, actually, it's interesting even before we get into theories, just to see the questions they're asking. I mean, we've been asking why the hexagon, why sitcoms, whether or not they're in the same space-time. And I don't know if we actually get an answer to that in this episode, because it seems like we saw 3 episodes, but I think from their perspective, they're seeing more than 3 episodes, because it seems like they got a bunch of episodes in the 50s and a bunch of episodes in the 60s, because they're there for like a day, and they get and they're watching episodes keep streaming in. I think they got more than one. I think they got more than one episode in each time period.
The secret sitcoms of WandaVision, probably they've been watching. Like Disney Plus might be holding them off, you know, as like a subscription type of ploy for them to hold them off. Lost episodes of WandaVision.
Yeah.
Well, if they paid a $30 fee, maybe they can get all of it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think one of you guys were talking about the scrolls. That was also something that they have here on the board. Who could be doing this? Who's behind this, rather? Scrolls. So that's definitely something that they're thinking about. I'm sure someone on the internet will probably find this. But when I put this screenshot together, I don't know what's below this. But I think it's related to up here. If it's not the scrolls, then something else, but there's nothing below there. And it also seems like there's a 5-mile radius around the hexagonal shape is a 5-mile radius. So that's everything that from this screenshot. I did not try to zoom and enhance individual computer screens, but because those were too small. But there's a lot of information just on this board.
Yeah, I find this very interesting is that it reminded me of 2 things. The one thing is like whether or not if you've ever worked in the private sector or in an office before, they always do these type of boards in a conference room or something like that. So it was very interesting to see that. But also it reminded me of that clip with Thor and Bruce Banner, that comedic clip, and he had the theories on his board about the Infinity Stones, and it was very interesting to kind of, in some ways, reference back to that humorous scene from that in between Thor comedic clip or one shot.
You mean an Endgame, or are you talking about a different?
Oh no! This was like during Civil War when Thor and Banner were off in doing Thor 3, but they had this like one thing where Thor was living in Australia with this guy Daryl. It was the Daryl one.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
it was a one shot, right?
Yeah, it was like a one shot type of deal. And wondering if Daryl is part of canon or not, so it's very funny.
Yeah, why Thor and Hulk weren't in Civil War, right? And then they
exactly.
Yeah,
yeah.
But we also see from these clips that it was Darcy that was the one taking the notes. I think from episode 1, at the end of episode 1.
Yes. At the end of the episode, we definitely see Darcy's notebook on end of episode 1. I think I should go back to this clip. Maybe I cut it out of this clip. No. It's actually at the end of this
right
one.
Here.
I think it's
these swords will take.
It's at the end of this clip. Yeah. At the end of this scene, rather, you actually see the same exact scene as you saw at the end of the first episode. So it definitely was Darcy who figured it out. Darcy, who's been taking notes, been recording it. So yeah. So after they identify most of the people, they did notice that they did not identify who Agnes is. So she's still suspicious.
That's right.
She's still suspicious.
Good catch. Yep. Good catch.
They identified pretty much everyone else. I think John, we got a good answer for why Herb has such bad wigs, because he's bald. The regular guy is bald, and this environment keeps putting wigs on his head. They look terrible, but the regular citizen is bald. It's funny.
Did they end up identifying Dottie as well?
They did not identify Dottie. They identified her husband, or the person who's playing her husband, as Darcy would say it. But we don't know whether or not she is actually married to the guy who they identified as who's playing her husband. We know that the Harts are married. They are a married couple. And the other thing that's interesting here, because we know the Harts are married from the first episode, the panic on Mrs. Hart face it was probably genuine, because it was her husband. They weren't the Harts, but that was her husband, and she was very worried that Wanda was going to kill him. And I still think that was what was happening. I don't think he was choking because he was like agitated. I think he was choking because Wanda wanted him to stop talking. As we'll see later on in this episode, and it's not really theory crafting, because Monica just comes out and says, Wanda's behind a lot of this. I don't know if Wanda's the only person, but all right. So from there we get Darcy's attempt to talk to Wanda, which we also saw in the second episode, right?
I do have an idea. So, you've seen that radio on Wanda's kitchen counter, right? We'll shoot a signal to that little guy. Allow us to speak directly to her.
Is this from the current episode?
Aired about 2 minutes ago.
Like a retro version of a sword drone? But how did it change and why?
Go with the production design?
Or render it useless?
Why'd you colorize it?
I didn't.
Let's get the show on the road. Jimmy, Monica is talking to Wanda. She's got a speaking part now. Radio on the side table. Start talking.
Wanda! Who's doing the C, Wanda?
Wait.
What?
I don't know. That was weird.
What was?
It's over. Mission failure.
It's worth a try. Good effort, Doctor.
So what did you gather from their attempt to contact Wanda?
So they can't tell if they're successful, but we can see from I think it was the second episode, he did get through. But it appears Wanda may have wiped that out as well. So from their perspective, it looked like a failed attempt.
Right.
And that's where we also see the confirmation that that Wanda definitely picked up some kind of helicopter. It was a drone that got it changed its shape because most likely it's in that world, and that he called it, what is it, production values or something,
Yeah.
as to why it probably changed shape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was also the first time where there was like distortions that are happening, where you can tell that Wanda was trying to control the narrative in some ways, and I think it went straight to the credits. I think I don't quite remember if this was the clip, but I know that later on it did happen.
No.
So I think it was that, like, there was some part where Dr. Lewis was saying, yeah, something's going on, and then she kind of said, "Oh, nothing," and it was like this kind of like weird type of thing that was happening.
So this is the first time she notices the glitch, and she just assumes that it's just her mind playing tricks on her. But she sees it several other times, and we know, because we've seen the first 3 episodes, every time it glitches coincides with things not going the way that Wanda would like things to go. Because when we first saw the episodes, we didn't know if it was Wanda messing with the environment or someone else. And I still don't know if it's 100% Wanda, but it's obviously, from time to time, it is Wanda. So and she's looking more and more sinister as we get more and more information. We get more and more information from different perspectives. It's looking more and more like she's just the sinister agent in this. But the first time Darcy sees this glitch, she just assumes that, her mind is playing tricks on her or whatever. The mission failed, and then we get the Hydra commercial with the Strucker watch. So that's it cuts from Dottie to the Hydra commercial, and you never see Dottie's bloody hand like we saw her Dottie's. Dottie's bloody hand. So that's what happened. That's the first time.
Okay.
That's the first time we see. That's the first time Darcy sees something weird. There's just a jump.
Yep.
It's similar to the splice that we saw in the last episode when Vision started to ask questions and there was just a cut. It was a very similar cut.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so don't forget that Hayward sent this guy on what Wu thought was a unadvised mission. So we'll see what happens to him. So from the other perspective, there are all kinds of theories online about what was going on with this guy. Why was he in a bee suit? But now we understand why. It's basically the answer to this is similar to why the helicopter is the way, or the drone turned into the thing. So it's like everything is distorted when it goes through the prism of the barrier of the Westview anomaly. Mm-hmm. So we still don't know what
happened to him.
Yeah, exactly. We still don't know what happened to him. I
fear the worst.
I fear the worst as well. I hope they don't make if they are going towards making Wanda a villain. I'm sure. I guess she could kill people. But that'd be a big heel turn. As opposed to, like, I don't know, incapacitating him or freezing him in something or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Or maybe he's absorbed into the environment. I mean, what we see later on that Monica... Yeah. We see later on that Monica was absorbed into the environment, right? It's just that Monica stayed on mission, even though she was absorbed in the environment. She chose trying to figure out what's going on, which got her expelled from the environment. So maybe he's just another person in the environment now.
Yeah,
maybe he just got shoved right back down into the sewer. I can't think.
Yeah, that could be one way, or it could be that it could be the same way as Monica. What happened to Monica as well? So, he's
the stork.
Yeah, it's the mystery, or it could be the stork. Yeah, there's a mystery going on with the bee guy.
Yeah. And then we get to not really the meat of the episode, but the convergence of this episode with the last episode. They start to converge here.
Call the doctor. Yes, I do. 1950s, 1960s, and now the 70s.
He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?
Did she just say the name Ultron? Has that happened before? A reference to our reality?
No, never.
I think we
Wow,
skipped
this is different.
the
Looks
cup
like Monica's
noodle
standing right there, and the
product
next she
placement,
isn't. Someone
the
is censoring the
Maruchan
broadcast.
product
But
placement.
where's
Yeah.
Randall?
I think we skipped that, but it's cool. I found it very interesting.
Yes, they did have. They did have at the beginning of this when she saw Monica in the environment. She had cup of noodles and it dropped on the floor.
Yes.
So right there was another skip in the video, and they notice Wanda acting very weird, and then they hear that there's a breach. So maybe the guy is still inside, because as soon as Monica left the environment, they got a breach alert, and we didn't get a breach alert when he interacted with Wanda the night before in the previous episode. So he might still be in there. I don't know. I hope he's alive because he's like, Hayward sent him on a very dangerous mission there. And then we get to see what actually happened when they cut in the previous episode. Notice that the aspect ratio is actually still the 16:9.
Are you? Wanda, right now you are trespassing here, and I want you to leave.
To me, she seems very disturbed in this episode.
Oh yes.
Like after she does what she did, the look on her face, she's like she has to catch herself. Like she goes like berserker mode, and she has to catch herself because she's she's in a room with 2 children, so she tries to catch herself, but she definitely seems like she went off here.
So I'll save a few things about this thing that I want to talk about for the theory section. But you're right; she definitely comes off scary. We're fearing that she's possibly turning into a villain for this, just like we were kind of talking about previous videos.
Yeah.
And I hope that's not the case, but that it very well could be headed that way. We see what she did to Monica. Monica should be dead, by the way.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I also have a theory on that as well. So,
I mean,
it's very menacing look, and I think that the camera, like the lighting, really kind of gave her that type of the redness. As I think it's like, along with her magic, chaos magic, it was more like just that menacing look with the red and the anger, and all of that was just kind of like really well done in the facial expressions. So definitely very interesting twist there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so then we move on to the other side where Monica surfaces.
oh look, she's alive.
You okay? It's Wanda. It's all Wanda.
So Monica seems to think it's all Wanda. I don't know if that's the case, but a significant part of it has to be Wanda from what we've seen now. And we can get into this later on when we talk about theories. Although this theory section is going to be a bit shorter this week because we're talking about some of this stuff here. But yeah, we hear from Monica that it's Wanda. Without getting into, I guess, future speculation, do you think that she's right here? Yeah, you think she's right? You think it's just Wanda?
Yeah, I don't really know, because I don't know if it is the case, because she never met, I don't recall, Agnes during the first few episodes. I don't think they ever interacted. So the fact that she interacted with Wanda for most of the time, and she doesn't really know Agnes, I think that really doesn't let Agnes off the hook just yet. So there's still a lot that's there that I feel that it's not being revealed, and I think that Agnes is still in the middle of it somehow, some way.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say more about this later, but I still don't. I definitely think that she's responsible in some way, and maybe a large portion of it. But I think that there's something else going on here as well, and we don't know what the something else is. But I have some speculation about what something else is. But I think there's other things going on also. But I can totally understand from Monica's perspective, given what just happened to her, that she believes that it's Wanda, and just like John said, I don't know how she survived that. We could speculate about how she survived that, but
yeah,
when she went through the first wall, it should broke her back.
Yeah.
So then we get a scene where Vision confronts Wanda. Now, remember, this is just after he was outside talking to Herb and Agnes about from his perspective, Geraldine. He was outside talking to Agnes and Herb about Geraldine, and Herb is like, she came here because.
Wanda, where is Geraldine?
She had to rush home.
What is it? What's wrong? We don't have to stay here.
This is our home. Oh, don't worry, darling. I have everything under control.
Yeah. So this gets into a little bit of speculation, but I don't know if it's so we can talk about this back here on this screen. One of the things that they're asking is Vision alive? So is Vision alive? What do you think? What do you think happened there? Is Vision alive?
He's undead.
Yeah.
He. I think he is. He's alive in her fantasy world here, in this little world that she's created there. But I think clearly he's dead in some form. But again, I have a lot of theories as to why he looked that way as well. But I think he's dead. So
yeah, that was just scary overall. Just like seeing him, seeing his dead face from Infinity War, that just like shocked me. I was like, oh my!
It's the same exact face, and I might actually drop the video from in post about from Infinity War, so you can see it, so you can compare it. But yeah, it's the same. It's the same exact dead face, but it was lifeless. So it's very jarring to see an undead. He basically looks like a zombie because he's talking like a regular person.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, that could be another theory. It's like, is he a zombie? You know, you never know.
Marvel zombies.
Yeah, Marvel zombies.
Marvel has done stories about zombies before.
Yes,
I think it was that like Deadpool kills the Marvel universe. I think he kills in the Marvel universe because everyone's a zombie. If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was there is precedent in the comics. So after that, we get the last scene of the episode where, I mean, the previous scene was Vision confronting Wanda, and then she gives him, a pass off. She just rushed home. Everything's fine. And she says that in the previous scene, she also says that I have everything under control. And then you see this look in the final scene on Vision's face. He's very suspicious of her. He's very suspicious of her.
Yeah.
Look at his face. It's very uneasy. And then he puts on a smile for her.
Oh gosh.
Well, even here, I don't know if you have the video go to the end. He looks right into the camera at the end.
Oh, at the very end? No, I didn't get that in the clip.
At the very end, yep. As soon as it cuts away after they're seated.
This is what I caught. He looks very, very, very concerned here. But he's like, I gotta keep put my smile on because who knows what she's gonna do.
Yeah.
It's almost like a help me type of look. It's like, please help me.
Yeah.
Please get me out. And it's like, free vision.
Yeah, I don't know. So like I think it's hard to read into what he's doing, why he looks like that. I don't think that he necessarily fears for his life from her. I think he genuinely loves her, but he might be suspicious about what she did to Geraldine, and he's concerned about Geraldine's safety. Because I don't think he bought that story, because it was a very thin story. It was like, I don't know how many exits this house has, but how she made an exit to make Geraldine leave, but I think he's probably familiar with the exits. If Geraldine left in a hurry, he would have seen her go through an exit. But except for the exit that she made in the back of the house.
Yeah.
But was it it's on the same wall as the door, though. So he would have seen her go flying right out the front.
I don't know. Where was I'd have to look back in the I'll have to look back in the set photos and see where he pushed it, because if you look at the Geraldine scene, she goes through the living room into the baby's room and then out of the side of the thing, and I don't know where that is situated. I think it's the backyard that she goes through. So maybe he wouldn't have seen it, but I'd have to look back at the videos. Look back at the videos of this new house, because their house keeps changing, and see where she flew out of. But she definitely went through the baby's room, because you also saw her crash through the crib, which Wanda had to reassemble to try to fool Vision, but he's not fooled. Yeah. Hey folks, we're gonna stop the video here because it's already over 45 minutes long. Congratulations for getting this far. We really appreciate you watching all the way through. But we're really interested in what you thought about episode 4. So comment down below and catch us in our next, or the continuation of this conversation in our next video, where we get into the theories of this episode. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.